Hey everybody. In this video we're going to go over some strumming exercises for ukulele and guitar students, as well as discuss just the basics of rhythmic notation. Rhythmic notation is just a pared down version of musical notation that doesn't show you any of the notes you have to play, but just the rhythmic organization. So as you can see here, we just have notes arranged on a single line. And really the only defining feature is the rhythmic notation. So in this case, we have a dark note head with a vertical line or stem, which represents a quarter note. And let's scroll to the next example. Here we have a bunch of eighth notes that are beamed together. So we're not concerned with the notation showing us which notes to play. It's really just helping us count and strum along. We're going to be counting in cycles of 4. Note these 2 4s over here. It's what we call a time signature. It tells us how to count each measure. Measures are just these blocks that are divided by these vertical bar lines. In this first measure, we have 4 beats, for which each quarter note here receives 1 beat. The other figure we want to pay attention to is up above these notes. You'll notice these staple-like figures. This is musical notation for strumming down. Let's scroll ahead to the next example again. Here above this note, you notice that little V symbol. This means strum up, strum down, strum up, strum down, strum up, strum down, strum down. Ha! Gotcha. Whether you're playing ukulele or guitar, grab a C chord. And we're going to stay on that chord for the duration of this video. We're only focused on how we're strumming and counting. We don't want to be really changing it up with a whole bunch of chords at this point. So to help us count evenly, we're going to use a metronome, really just a device that clicks along in the background at a steady clip. In this case, we're going to go at 50 beats per minute. I'll show you what this sounds like. It's going to count to 4 before the actual example starts, so you'll hear 4 clicks, and on the very next one we'll start. So I'll count out loud with the metronome and strum along just to show you how it's going to go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See? Not so bad. Another thing I want to encourage you to do is count out loud while you play along. It just really helps ingrain those rhythmic subdivisions and the counts you're on when you're looking at the cymbals. So I've noticed a huge difference between my students that choose to count these exercises out loud versus those who kind of just mumble along as they play. So I encourage you to do so. Let's give this one a shot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. In this next example, it looks very similar to the first. All we've done here is really divide each of those 4 beats in half into what we call eighth notes. You'll notice that 2 of those are paired together, and they're going to be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Nothing too crazy. Also, we're going to be strumming down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, up, alternately. So let's give this one a shot. I'll count us in, counting 1 and 2 and so on, and then we'll start on the next cycle. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. In this next example, we have 3 quarter notes and 2 eighth notes. This will be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Also, note on the quarter notes, we strum down, 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 and then for the eighth notes, down, up. So it'll be down, 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 up. Ugh, I was late on that click. Anyway, let's give this a shot. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 Nice job. If at any point you find this to be a little bit challenging, you can either slow the video down, or you can also go back to the previous examples and get a little better foundry before moving on. Here's the next example. We have a quarter note followed by 6 eighth notes. So we're going to strum down, down, up, down, up, down, up, counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's give this a shot. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. Picking up steam. This next example comes to you courtesy of Johnny Cash. And we've got a quarter note followed by 2 eighths, another quarter, and 2 eighths. Let's see if we can just dive into this one, see how we do. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. How'd you do? It's getting a little tricky to count and strum at the same time. So again, if you're struggling, slow down the video or just pause it and try to count out loud and go at your own pace. My favorite example on the page. It has a smiley face. Between these two notes, there's this little curve line. It makes a pretty cool little smiley face. And it's actually called a tie. All it does, ties 2 notes together. So in this case, we have 1 and 2 and. That and of 2 is tied to 3 here, meaning that when we strum on the and of 2, we hold that up strum all the way till the and of 3. I'll show you what I mean. I'll play through this example. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and. Get the idea? Give it a shot with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and. This is one of the more popular strumming patterns I teach for especially my ukulele students as of late, and the tie actually is from a quarter note to an eighth note, meaning we count 1 and, 2 and, we don't strum again on 3, we strum up on the and of 3. Really, in our mind, we're strumming down on every number and up on every and. So some of my students like to continue just strumming down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and just miss the strings on these tied values or even on quarter note values. For example, on the first quarter note here, strumming down, up. And I mean, you really do have to get the pick above the strings again. But here we have down, up. I mean, there's an up and a down that you really don't need to strum if you don't want to. You could just strum down here and up again here. But sometimes it helps to go through the motions just to keep yourself on track. Anyway, I'm going to play through this one for you before we get into it. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now give it a shot with me. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. How'd you do? I know you can't answer me. It's just a video, but let's get into the next example. Here, all eighth notes, and we have a tie between the and of 1 and 2, meaning when we strum up here, we don't need to strum again here until the and of 2. And here, I think it's a really good idea. I mean, you're going to have to anyway to get your hand back down below the strings. You're going to have to move your hand down. So it's kind of a ghost strum without connecting with the strings onto there. Just do not hit right onto. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Before we get into this one, pause it really quick and see if you can't count and figure out what's going on here. What we have is a quarter note tied to an eighth note. So we have 1 and. We don't strum on 2. We strum up on and of 2. 3 and 4. This quarter note lasts for all of 4 and. Let's give it a go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Here we are, the last example for this video. Yeah, let's just dive right into it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Did beat 3 or 4 catch you? That's a tricky one. Let's actually take a deeper dive in here. We got a quarter note, 2 eighth notes, and then a quarter note tied to an eighth note. So that tricky little figure from earlier in this video creeps up later in the measure. The thing about reading any type of musical notation is it's not just assuming the pattern's going to keep repeating. You have to keep looking ahead and paying attention because things change, and at this pace, you really don't have enough time to react. It all has to be very proactive. So always be looking at the next figure at least, or if you can, maybe even a couple figures ahead of what you're playing. You don't want to be looking for the next one right after you strum. You want to be already looking at the next one, maybe even before you strum the value you're on. So hope this went well for you. Feel free to review this, slow down the video. If I'm boring you, speed that up. See how it goes. Anyway, have a good day. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, as well as all things guitar, ukulele, bass, drums, and piano, click the notification bell to be informed when we release new videos. If you believe in what we're doing here, click the link in the video's description to visit our Patreon page and learn how you can support this channel.